Every office has one room nobody talks about. Not officially. There's no memo, no policy, no warning taped beside the coffee machine. But every workplace develops strange little dead zones where conversation goes quiet and people suddenly remember they have emails to answer. Sometimes it's a storage room, sometimes it's a stairwell. Other times, an entire floor everyone pretends is under renovation for 6 consecutive years. In our office, it was the break room. Not because the break room itself was strange. Break rooms are already liminal spaces by nature. Cheap chairs, burnt coffee, a microwave carrying ghosts of 1,000 frozen burritos. The quiet despair of adults eating yogurt under fluorescent lights while pretending this is not how the species ends. No. The strange thing was the door. Because one Monday morning, there was a black door in the back wall of the break room that had not been there on Friday. And somehow, that was not even the most disturbing part. The disturbing part was how quickly everyone accepted it. Welcome to Tavern Reflections. Pull up a chair, pour yourself something warm, and settle in for tonight's reflection. Tonight's reflection drifts through the humming fluorescent purgatory of office buildings. Endless email chains, bad coffee, and the quiet emotional exhaustion modern people carry like unpaid debt, simply trying to survive their jobs. CloudSource once claimed the modern workplace had become, quote, a machine designed to harvest attention until people forget they were never alive outside of it. End quote. Honestly, it sounded a bit dramatic at the time. Then the door appeared. This is a story about burnout, about escape, and about the unsettling possibility that if someone offered most people a door out of their lives, a surprising number would walk through it without asking where it led. If you enjoy strange stories, eerie reflections, and darker little wanderings through the edges of reality, more strange doors await at TravisSivart.com. Now, let's head to work. The company was called Meridian Data Solutions, which sounds like a real business and, well, sounds less like a real business and more like something generated by AI trained exclusively on LinkedIn profiles and sadness. A lot of businesses sound like sadness, don't they? I worked there for almost 5 years, and to this day, I still cannot clearly explain what we actually did. There were spreadsheets, client metrics, optimization reports, meetings about meetings. Oh my God. Entire departments dedicated to forwarding emails to other departments, I swear. The kind of corporate ecosystem where everyone is busy and nobody is certain why. What the hell others are doing. Hell, what they're doing. The office occupied the 7th floor of a gray building downtown, beside a parking garage that smelled permanently of rain and engine oil. You ever notice how these huge concrete complexes of car collections can just smell wet, even in the height of summer, when it hasn't rained in weeks? But anyhow, everything inside the office Everything carried that sterile, corporate sameness. Gray carpet, gray cubicles with that not carpet on the walls, gray walls, gray people, slowly transforming caffeine into quarterly reports. The lights hummed constantly overhead, not loudly, just enough that if you worked there long enough, silence started feeling suspicious. I handled client retention analytics, which mostly meant staring at numbers until my eyes stopped recognizing them as numbers and began interpreting them as personal attacks. The days blurred together. Wake up, drive to work, bad coffee, emails, lunch eaten at a desk, meetings that should have been messages, more emails, drive home exhausted enough to watch half an episode of something before falling asleep on the couch fully clothed. If I didn't start falling asleep on the drive home itself. Repeat until death or promotion, whichever arrived first. The people there weren't bad people. That would have made things easier. Most were just tired. Corporate exhaustion creates a specific kind of emotional flattening. Flat line, almost. Nobody dreams anymore. Or if they do, it's such mundane things. A vacation, a weekend cookout. Nobody dreams big. Nobody burns with ambition. They just survive politely. Barely. There was Denise from payroll who kept stress-eating peppermints until her desk smelled permanently like Christmas anxiety. Martin from compliance, who referred to every convenience as an opportunity for process refinement. What's that even mean? And which I now suspect is how serial killers describe dismemberment. An opportunity for process refinement. And Kevin. Kevin was important. Every office has a Kevin. A man in his late 30s who somehow looks both 45 and 12 years old at the same time. That wrinkled dress shirt, usually a pale blue, maybe, with thin pinstripes. Permanent coffee cup. Plain one with a stylized logo or saying on it that just blends into the background and you no longer even see. His eyes carrying the spiritual fatigue of a medieval plague doctor. Kevin's entire personality consisted of muttering, "This place is gonna kill me." At first it was funny. Then it was less funny. Then, eventually, it began sounding medically predictive. The break room sat near the back corner of the office beside a hallway nobody used because the motion-sensitive lights back there took too long to turn on. Like a dark tunnel underneath the highway that everybody was afraid to cross through. The room itself was aggressively ordinary. 3 plastic tables, a vending machine that occasionally ate dollar bills like tribute offerings, small green sacrifices given to a god of junk food. A refrigerator full of unlabeled yogurt containers evolving into new life forms. Who keeps bringing in all the yogurt and not eating? What the hell? I mean, really, people. Anyhow, along the far wall of that break room, the door. It appeared over the weekend, matte black, no window, no handle on the outside. just a simple rectangular door where there had previously been drywall and a faded motivational poster about teamwork involving kayaks for some reason. Monday morning, Denise noticed it first. Was that always there? We all looked up from our coffee. Kevin frowned. Nope. Martin adjusted his tie. Probably maintenance. That was the first unsettling thing. Nobody reacted correctly. There should have been concern, questions, security calls. Instead, everyone simply accepted the impossible with the weary resignation of office workers already overwhelmed by less supernatural problems. Because honestly, the mysterious door ranked pretty low compared to mortgage payments, student loans, migraines, performance reviews, and existential collapse. Jules, from HR, eventually sent an email. Subject: Breakroom renovation access. The body of the email contained exactly one sentence. Please avoid unnecessary concern regarding the newly installed access door. That sentence caused significantly more concern. Kevin read it twice and whispered, That's exactly what someone says before raccoons or demons get involved. Ask my buddy Ed about raccoons getting involved. The door remained closed for 3 days. Nobody touched it. Not out of fear exactly, more because office culture trains people not to interact with unfamiliar things, unless specifically invited through Outlook or something. Slack nowadays, right? Then, Thursday happened. I was heating leftover pasta in the microwave when I heard the latch click. The latch of that black door with no handle on this side. Denise slowly lowered her coffee cup, and the door opened inward. Beyond it stretched a softly lit hallway. That was all. No monsters, no darkness, no blood. Just warm amber light spilling across the clean carpet. In a world of white fluorescent darkness. And silence. Deep silence. Not the absence of sound. The absence of pressure. The hallway curved slightly out of sight. What office building has a curved hallway? Kevin stared for several seconds. Then, that was it. The man reacted to impossible architecture the way most people react to finding a new flavor of yogurt. Martin walked over first. Interesting. He leaned slightly into the doorway. Warm air drifted out, carrying the faint smell of rain and cedar. Not office smells. Not printer toner and burnt coffee. Real air. Living air. Martin stepped inside. We waited. 30 seconds later, he returned, calm, relaxed, almost peaceful. How far does it go? Denise asked. Martin blinked slowly. Didn't really look. Why not? He smiled faintly. It was quiet. That answer settled heavily into the room, because everyone there understood exactly what he meant. Quiet had become rare, real quiet, Not silence between notifications, not the muted hum of an office after hours, the kind of quiet where your nervous system stops bracing itself for impact. Ugh. Just the thought of it makes me almost invisibly tense up. Over the next week, people began using the door during breaks. At first, cautiously, then casually. Someone would disappear inside for 10 minutes and return looking rested in ways sleep no longer accomplished. Denise stopped stress eating peppermints. Kevin stopped muttering about death. Even Martin became less aggressively corporate, which honestly should have alarmed federal authorities. Nobody understood the door. Nobody wanted it removed either. And besides, how the hell do you remove a door? That's the dangerous thing about relief. People stop asking questions once pain eases. Instead of looking for what caused it in the first place, once it disappears, they stop worrying about it. They forget what that was like, that pain, that constant reminder that you're alive and suffering like a low-grade thrumming. I waited longer than most before entering, not because I was brave or cowardly, because I distrust anything offering comfort too easily. Like I said, when pain disappears, people forget. And I don't trust that. But one Tuesday afternoon, after a 3-hour meeting about productivity metrics and successfully eliminating my remaining attachment to humanity, I finally opened the door. The hallway beyond felt warm, softly lit. No visible light fixtures. Just gentle amber illumination, like late afternoon sunlight. The carpet muffled footsteps completely. The air smelled of some of my favorite things, like old books and rain. Behind me, the office noise faded instantly. No phones, no keyboards, no fluorescent hum. Just stillness. The hallway curved gradually left. I followed it for perhaps 30 seconds before finding another room. Inside sat a leather chair beside a fireplace, a real fireplace. Bookshelves lined the walls. Rain tapped softly against unseen windows. The record player, somewhere in the distance, played low and slow blues. And for one terrible moment, I almost cried. Not because it was frightening, because it felt like rest, deep rest. The kind modern adults fantasize about in quiet moments between obligations. I sat in the chair. The warmth settled into my bones immediately. I don't know how long I stayed there. 10 minutes, maybe? An hour? Time felt soft inside the room. Like that pillow when you turn it over without having to fluff it, but your head sinks in just perfectly. It's not too cold and not too warm. And you just drift. When I finally returned to the office, Denise looked up from her desk. "You okay?" I realized I was smiling. Not performatively, not socially, just actually smiling. That scared me more than the door itself. The changes became noticeable after that. Employees spent longer inside. People stopped taking lunch outside the office entirely. One man from accounting disappeared for almost 3 hours and returned saying, "I think I needed that." Nobody asked what he meant. A week later, he stopped showing up entirely. Jules, from HR, informed us he had accepted another opportunity. No goodbye email, no farewell lunch. His desk vanished overnight. And slowly, disturbingly, people stopped remembering his name. That was when I began paying attention. The office itself started feeling thinner somehow. Cubicles disappeared. Schedules changed. Entire conversations seemed erased halfway through. One afternoon I mentioned that accountant. What his name escapes me right now. But I mentioned the accountant to Denise. She frowned at me. Who? The guy near the windows? Tall, mustache. She stared at me blankly. We've never had anyone there. I looked toward the cubicle. Empty. No photos, no computer, no sign anyone had ever occupied it. The next time I entered the hallway, it had changed. The fireplace room was gone. Now the corridor opened into what appeared to be a lakeside cabin at sunset. Wooden dock, still water. Crickets humming somewhere in the tall grass beyond. I heard laughter inside the cabinet. Familiar laughter. Somebody I knew, loved, remembered. I froze. I hadn't heard that laugh in a half dozen years. It came again. Warm, comfortable, real enough to hurt. I backed away. The hallway behind me seemed longer than before. That was when I understood something important. The door didn't show people random places. It showed them what they emotionally lacked most. Peace, silence, belonging, rest, forgiveness, escape. Kevin eventually admitted his room looked like an old movie theater from his childhood. Denise described a garden behind her grandmother's house. Martin refused to discuss his at all, which somehow worried me most. The deeper horror was not what the door contained. The deeper horror was how badly people wanted it. One Friday afternoon, Kevin failed to come back. Waited an hour before anyone noticed. Jules sent another email. Subject, staffing update. Kevin is no longer with Meridian Data Solutions. That sentence hit differently than intended. No longer with. Not employed, not assigned elsewhere, just gone. No longer with. I stood outside the break room after hours, staring at the black door while the office lights dimmed automatically around me. The hallway beyond glowed softly, warmly, invitingly. I heard distant ocean waves, then music. Then her voice calling me by the nickname she used when I was 8 years old, 10 years old, when you still have nicknames before you rebel against them. My hand tightened on the door frame. That was the moment I realized the true danger. Nobody walked through the door because they were curious. They walked through it because they were tired. Modern exhaustion runs deeper than sleep. People are starving emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, starving. The world grinds them down into manageable shapes, then wonders why everyone fantasizes about vanishing. I've done whole shows on this topic, and the door understood that perfectly. It offered no wealth, no power, no glory, just relief. I began staying later at the office, watching patterns emerge. The door seemed more active after difficult days, after layoffs, arguments, after performance reviews. The hallway almost pulsed with invitation during moments of collective stress. Then one night, long after everyone else had gone home, I entered again. The corridor stretched farther this time. Doors lined the walls now, hundreds of them, each slightly open. Behind one, I heard children laughing. Behind another, rainfall. Music drifted from somewhere distant. Cooking smells, fireplaces, ocean waves, birdsong. All the tiny, comforting sounds people spend their lives missing. And deeper down the hall, I noticed something worse. People. Not trapped, not screaming, just sitting peacefully inside rooms, reading, sleeping, talking quietly beside fires. A woman painting near a window overlooking mountains. An old man fishing beside impossible water. None acknowledged me. None seemed eager to leave. Terrible thoughts settled into my mind. What if they had not disappeared? What if they had simply stopped wanting reality? Is this what happens in those stories and movies about asylums, where people just wander around in a daze? Is this where they live? The hallway stretched onward endlessly. More doors, more soft light, more stolen comforts. And somewhere far ahead beyond sight, I heard something massive shifting slowly in the dark architecture beyond the rooms. Not hostile, hungry. Like the building itself breathing quietly around all those resting souls. I turned back immediately. The office beyond the break room looked horrifying afterwards. Fluorescent lights, cubicles, unread emails, half-dead office plants. Humans dragging themselves through another Thursday. And yet, I understood why the door kept winning. Because the office was surviving. The hallway was living. That distinction matters. Over the following month, more employees vanished. Always explained away, always forgotten. And the terrifying part? Productivity improved. Management seemed pleased. The fewer people remained, the calmer the office became, as if the building itself preferred reduced resistance. Because you're more productive when you're relaxed, right? One evening, I found Martin standing outside the door alone. "You know what it is, don't you?" I asked. He nodded slowly. "What?" He looked tired in a way I still think about sometimes. "It's mercy." That answer frightened me. Possibly more than anything else associated with this yet. Because I understood exactly why he believed it. And a week later, Martin disappeared too. Eventually, only a handful of us remained. Nobody discussed the missing employees anymore, or why they weren't replaced with new ones. The office adapted around absence like water flowing around stones. One night I stayed late, finishing reports no human would remember 6 months later, even though they were stacked piles of paper or full file drawers or full hard drives somewhere. The building emptied gradually, lights shutting down floor by floor, silence settling across cubicles. And finally, the break room. The black door stood slightly open. Warm light spilled across tile floor. Inside I heard, all the things. Ocean waves, rain, distant music, trailing threads across my awareness. Laughter, peace. Not temptation exactly, recognition. Like the hallway already knew what shape my exhaustion had taken. I stepped closer. Inside, somewhere deep beyond the corridor, I glimpsed a room. My room. Not literally, emotionally. Bookshelves, warm lamps, cats, sleeping beside a fireplace. No deadlines, no emails, no obligation. Just stillness. And for one terrible moment, I wanted it. More than anything else. That is the closest I have ever come to disappearing. I stood there for a very long time. Then my phone let out a single chime and buzzed. Glanced down, out of habit, not even thinking. Just a spam notification. Don't even remember if it was a text or an email. Completely meaningless. But that sound and that buzz, that vibration broke something. I looked back at the office, at the ugly fluorescent lights, the stale coffee, the stack of unfinished reports, and suddenly I understood something awful. Reality is exhausting. But it's also unfinished. The hallway only offered endings, comfortable endings, soft endings, but endings nonetheless. I slowly stepped backward. The warm light dimmed slightly. The sounds beyond the corridor grew distant, almost disappointed in me. And then the door closed quietly on its own. I had made a choice, and a decision had been finalized. The next morning, the black door was gone. No hole in the wall, no sign it had ever existed. Just the old motivational kayak poster hanging exactly where it used to be. No one mentioned the door again, not once. The missing employees remained missing. The office carried on, emails, meetings, coffee, metrics, as though reality had quietly sealed over a wound. I quit 2 months later. Not dramatically, no speech, no triumph. Simply realized I had come dangerously close to wanting the hallway more than my own life. And that terrified me enough to leave. The reason stories like this linger in the human brain is because they touch something painfully real beneath the supernatural layer. Most people are tired, not sleepy, soul tired, emotionally overextended, mentally fragmented. Modern life demands constant availability while offering very little genuine rest. And eventually people stop fantasizing about adventure. They fantasize about silence, about disappearing somewhere nobody needs anything from them. Nobody calls their name. Nobody begs them for their attention. Nobody demands anything from them. And this place is hungry. And it feeds off that. The real world is about choosing to live, not agreeing to survive. Byron Savage once wrote that the most dangerous prisons are the ones people decorate themselves. The most dangerous prisons are the ones people decorate themselves. They have comfortable lighting, dental insurance, microwave dinners in the break room. The hallway beyond that black door merely offered a prettier version of the same surrender. That's what makes the door frightening. Not because it traps people, but people walk willingly towards it. No different than that sweet nectar in a Venus flytrap that attracts the local insect. They walk willingly toward it, into it. Rest has become so rare that many people would step into impossible places just to feel quiet again. And perhaps the darkest part is this. Most people are not afraid of disappearing. They're afraid nobody would notice. They're not afraid of disappearing. They're afraid nobody would notice if they disappeared. Nobody would care. The office in this story is exaggerated, but only slightly. Modern workplaces often consume identity slowly. People become functions, metrics, email signatures. And somewhere along the way, exhaustion becomes normalized enough that a mysterious black door offering emotional relief no longer seems absurd, seems reasonable. The answer to long forgotten and dead dreams. A replacement for ambition. That is the horror. Not monsters, not ghosts. Just a world where people become desperate enough to vanish voluntarily. You're not alone. You're not forgotten. You matter, you make a difference, and you're important. To me, and to many, many other people. So, stick around. There's always a chair in the tavern for you. And thank you for spending part of your evening here in the tavern. You enjoy strange stories, eerie reflections, weird little horrors, and dark wanderings through the edges of reality. More strange doors await at TravisSivart.com. Until next time, mind the shadows and be careful what kind of rest you wish for.